Hi, it's Gadget UK here again. Back for a follow-on on the three-part series from Xavier there. He sent a couple of A3010s. Consider this part 4, but it's also, I think, part 4 to the 3010 that I fixed and was able to keep for myself. There'll be a link down below to both series. The parallel port is the problem. Now, if you watch the previous three-part series there, that was the final issue with that, actually. And it was spread over 2 different parts fixing that parallel port. And there's some footage here that's sort of leaked in, if you like, from that series, where I was just cleaning up some screws and testing the board and working out some issues with the parallel port. But then I tested my A3010 and found that the parallel port on my 3010 doesn't work either. Now, I was using a zip drive to test. You'll see some short sections of me testing that here. But there'll be an extended video on using a zip drive as well. So again, the same stuff you've seen me do before, clean up the thread on screws here and the head. There's a little bit of rust still in there with a wire brush. It's very light on there, it's not like the screws the problem. I think actually this is rust from the case that's kind of leaked through. But nevertheless, clean it this way, then use a little bit of 3-in-1 oil and screw it back in. The oil is important just to protect the surface of it and obviously to ensure that it goes in. Yeah, so the screws are back in, you need a little Allen key like that. Yeah, so the next thing I'll do, I'll show you 1 or 2 of these because I know the result already, they're all good. These are the caps that we've swapped out on there. So I'll start with the big ones, they're all 220s I think. So ding ding, good ESR, good capacitance. Oh, yeah, and it's the same thing I always say, that you don't need to replace these through hole ones like this. Ding ding, that's good capacitance. They are Jamicon, which is I think a Japanese manufacturer, as I mentioned earlier, and they're just an average brand, but they're all good. Like everything I've come across on these where I've looked at the capacitors, they've always been alright. I haven't actually found one bad cap, I don't think, on an Archimedes. Now, I did test all the connections that I saw on the top side through the tracers that go to that chip, and everything looks alright. But clearly, there is something missing, because what happens with the zip drive, it says no drive detected. And I know, you won't know, but I know that drive works alright, because I tested it on, I think, a Windows 98 machine, which you'll see in the actual review of the zip drive, where you'll probably see this actually as well, because I'm finishing 2 videos at once here. Yeah, but the bottom line is, hang on, if I could slide this off, the zip drive I think is okay, so we must have, oh, hang on, that button's just broke off, wasn't it? Oh, forgot about that. That didn't last long, did it? Yeah, so we now need another new button. Doesn't matter, I've got loads of those. Thanks to Xavier, actually, that I've got a number of those spare. You can see there that 3D print plastic just didn't last. But here's an update on my Archimedes A3010 here. I've tested all the connectivity around the parallel port there. It's all alright, but it doesn't work. I'll show you what happens when you leave the drive connected. It just freezes the machine. The parallel port drive is not connected. I'm wondering if there's some corrosion underneath the parallel connector that's just like putting a bit of conductivity between 2 pins. It's the only thing I can think, because all the connectivity around there is good. There you go, it did the second load, so it didn't freeze, and it says there no drive. Yeah, and everything here is working at this point. Yeah, the machine's not like crashed or anything. Hang on. So you can open the floppy drive. Now watch what happens when I connect the parallel drive up while it's on. You really shouldn't connect anything while it's on really, but you know what, people do connect serial and parallel connections while things are on. Let me just try it. Not on there. Right, it's now connected up. I'm guessing something somewhere is detecting a change. Look, it's frozen. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Maybe it is a balked chip size on this. What I could just do is just reset the non-volatile settings. I'm going to hold down delete, switch the power on, wait for the red screen. Yeah, we got the red screen there. I'm just seeing if anything, I don't know, there's anything there in the settings that's maybe messing this up, because right now I can't explain this issue other than maybe a faulty chip size. See, maybe I've got maybe too many maybes there, maybe. Of course, it's going to have forgotten about my hard disk configuration when I plug that back in. I can't see that being it. Now it's frozen again, look. I don't know. Where do I go from here? Yeah, looking at the 3010 schematics here, you've got what looks like it's a slot in or something there, init, error, auto FD, strobe. Those connections, they go through resistors, all of them do, even the data bus stuff there. You've got a PD, your dedicated data bus here, printer data bus, parallel data bus, call it what you will. PD07, acknowledge busy, PE, something else there, I can't see what that is, SLCT it looks like. But all those go through the resistor to resistor arrays there, that I showed you. One of them, in fact in both cases here, both series, the tops of those got chipped off with hot air, so I ended up putting UV solder mask paint on top. And then, if you follow where they go through resistors, and you've got the odd ferrite, you've got pull-ups, you've got caps, and they all just go pretty much straight to the port. There's nothing else in between, you know, no other active components there. So, yeah, I need to test all connectivity on all those connections, just to rule out something connectivity-wise. But it might be the chips I see. Oh, I am losing the will to live working on these Archimedes, seriously. You saw me repair this. This was the 3-part one, I think, where we had a RAM fault. There was some corrosion under here. Yeah, this is why it's got these sockets for the RAM. Upgraded the RAM on it. Did the battery mod on this one. It's got the composite mod on this one, and it wasn't too bad corrosion-wise up here. It's just loosely hanging together. This. Now you can see the top, the paint on that has come off. I removed these with hot air. The point where you load the driver, it loads the first part of the driver, and then it looks at the port, and the system freezes. Well, it freezes, but the mouse is still working, but you can't click on things, nothing responds. You unplug the power port, it instantly responds, and it continues loading the rest of the driver. Then you plug the port back in, obviously it's detecting the drive, the same thing happens, the cursor can move around, you can't click on anything. It's like there's an interrupt, a constant interrupt being raised by something. Well, I thought it's going to be connectivity here, just like that other one, and it's not. I've tested, and there's no damage around here. I've tested every one of these caps. Some of these caps have been off. I lifted these arrays here, put them back down, because there was a little bit of corrosion underneath. I was thinking, is it that? I removed the parallel port. I'm going to get some pictures of these things, even though I haven't filmed that stuff. I'll stick them up while I'm waffling. And yeah, there's no damage around anything around there, and the connections get to the chip. There are no shorted pins on this chip. The parallel port just doesn't work. And I was thinking, what else could it be? I've looked at the schematics till I'm blue in the face. The only thing it can be is this chips IC. Can't be anything else. It's got to be faulty parallel port on this chips IC. Now, if you watched the original 3-part repair, you'll know that this is not the original one that was on this board. So it wasn't damaged by the battery. Yeah, this is a new, in quotes, chip that I bought off eBay that said he thinks it works. He wasn't sure. He bought it for spares years ago and never tested it. Well, I think that was rubbish. I think the parallel port's faulty on it. Yeah, floppy drive side works, so I'll keep that as a spare. But I think my next port of call is to get some flux around that, captain tape off some of these things around here, and remove that with hot air and fit the original one back on, because I'm sure that's what it is. Can't be anything else. So super annoying. So the chips IC, it's an 82C711. Look at the datasheet here. You can see it's a Universal Peripheral Controller 2. It's the kind of chip that you got on PC motherboards to provide lots of I/O. You can see there, for motherboard applications with configuration via software, low power CMOS 100-pin PQFP package, on-chip power management features, 100% IBM PC XT80 compatibility, 2 16450 compatible UARTs, so 2 serial ports basically, 1 IBM PC XT80 compatible enhanced bidirectional parallel port. That's important, it needs to be bidirectional, because you wouldn't be able to read back from the zip drive the data if it wasn't bidirectional, so you need a bidirectional parallel port. Here's an interesting thing I wasn't aware of. IDE interface for embedded AT and XT hard drives. That is something I wasn't aware of. I'm aware that the Archimedes can have hard disks, but they go via a completely different interface. They don't use the connections on this chip. So this is unused functionality on the chips IC, where it supports hard disk drives, but Acorn didn't actually seem to use it. Maybe it was too tailored to the PC side of things, in terms of how it sits in the address range or something. Yeah, and then you've got a floppy controller, fully UPD 72065. I think that's kind of like an equivalent of a 765 floppy controller from NEC. And in fact, it says they're limited NEC design. Yeah, so it does the floppy drive control as well. for various different types of geometry of discs, so you don't necessarily need to use 3.5-inch discs. I'm not going to put any flux on there because there's still a wee bit of flux, because I did reflow that earlier. That was something else I did just to make sure, but there were no bad connections around that, and I'm convinced that the one that I got is, you know, this one is a faulty chip on parallel. So yeah, we'll keep it for a mark it up. We'll keep it just in case, you know, for future, could use it to fix one of these, and, you know, just leave a faulty parallel port on there. I've got 3 layers of cap to tape around everything around here. You know, you could use foil, tape some foil down. Now, I've had these off before. They don't take an especially long time to remove. Kind of there, it's like hanging on down here, and it's hanging on up there. Well, I'm stuck on here now. That's it. Oh, that was painful. I made it look painful. Just get that off. Put that on top of the solder station actually. There we go, so that's cool. So yeah, it looks like we got that off without any damage. That was traumatic for me. And yeah, this stuff here, well, it survived, doesn't it? That was already previously slightly melted. And it looks like everything plasticky is alright around there, so you know what, I didn't do too bad there. That cap really does need replacing. It's the thing that I showed in the repair of that. I think I just touched the edge of it with the iron at some point. Anyway, yeah, lots of flux under there, so I'm going to get some braid on there. I'll let it cool a little bit first. Just have a bit of an inspection. Yeah, there's no damaged pads or anything there. I will just, you know, check all the connectivity to the wires and things in the middle here before we get the other chip on. Yeah, I am sure that this is the one we removed. Yeah, some of the pins look a bit wobbly there. I need to straighten those for certain. On this side here it goes way like that, it's like a wave. It highlights though that you can think something's fixed 100%, as I thought in that original series there. Yeah, but I had nothing at the point to test the parallel port with. I had no printer, I had nothing else that used the parallel port. And then I got that zip drive and then proceeded to do a video on the zip drive stuff, and of course we tested it on here and I couldn't get anywhere with it. So yeah, it shows the importance if you're fixing these and you've got, even if you've got no corrosion back there, you really need to test the parallel ports on them. Well, that's unless you're not the parallel port. Used magnification, and then I used a razor blade here, and there were a few pins that were squished right in on the end there, and just get it in between the first one, just pull slightly to the side, second one slightly to the side until they're equally spaced back in the position. But then on this side here they were like way like that, wavy all the way along. I don't know why, probably from the original removal. That's what can sometimes happen if it comes off unevenly. And then yeah, EEV block ruler, flat tool on the actual here, not on a rock hard surface, because if you push on a rock hard surface you'll get some of the pins flat, but you'll still have some unevenness. On a surface like this, because it can sink a bit with a bit of pressure when you press like this, get onto them, press and sort of like rotate it, so like the ones up here were waving out, and just do that over the whole thing. Do that on all 4 sides, and then inspect with magnification. They're all perfectly straight. Yeah, they're all absolutely perfectly straight now. The only thing I need to do is the ones over here that I had to separate with the scalpel. Once I've soldered some of the other 2 of the other points on to hold in position, then use the scalpel just to micro adjust them to make sure they're perfectly positioned on the pads. Or a pin, use a needle or a pin. Before I do that, I'm just going to test connectivity to each of the wires that go in the centre of that. So I'm going to try and come in without touching these blooming wires here. Get onto the pad, not the pin, copious amounts of solder. and then try and do a diagonal opposite. So I'm kind of coming down here, and I know you're not zoomed in, you can't really see anything, neither can I. Lots of solder, lots of solder, lots of solder, come on, flow. Right, I just moved the chip, so now I need to heat that pin on the magnification as I just move the chip slightly more left. Right, so I've got some flux all around that. I'm going to start on these side bits here. I'm using the Antex because of the shape of the tip here. If I bridge a few pins here, I may need to use braid in, well, one or two places. Just because it's a wee bit confined here, I'll try, and you're not going to be able to see it, I'll try and show you just a wee bit of this, and then I'm going to have to cut to using the magnification off camera. So I'm going to start up here because it's not soldered there, and then straighten all the pins on this side. I'm going to slide like this down here just carefully without dragging the actual pins themselves. Bobbing in, bobbing out because there's some bridges there. And then just another slide. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm having to flood these wires now because they're so close. Yeah, so I'll show you that one side that I've just done, and then I'll just do the other three off camera. So having rotated that round, can you see that? Hopefully you can. I'll maybe give you a look on macro, but you can hopefully see that is one side back on. Right, it's bad news, I'm afraid. This chip is faulty, and piecing, you know, the jigsaw together here, the chip that was on there was the replacement chip that was untested by the seller, yeah? So it had a fault with the power port. The floppy drive works. With this one, I think the BD bus is knackered. And the reason I think that is the floppy drive, it doesn't seek at all. You get no floppy drive on the desktop. And I would say 9 out of 10 times you can't even power cycle it. It freezes. It freezes at different points. And I've reflowed the points around there. I've checked for shorts. There's no bad connections. There've not been any bad connections while I've tested it. It's always stone cold. It just doesn't work. Now, one of the pins down here, the pads rather, is a bit loose. So I actually think I'm going to have problems when I pull this back off in a minute. I may lose one or more pads. I'm dreading this, absolutely dreading this. And I don't have a chips IC that works. We've got the one that we could stick back on there that was there, that where the power port's balked. I'm trying to fix the power port. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the other one you saw in part 1 of this series here, and it's really corroded. You'll see that board in a minute. I'm going to remove the chips IC from it, and I'm going to try and fit that on here. It's a recipe for disaster because we don't know whether that works, do we? I don't know. I'm going to end up with a couple of Archimedes that don't work here, aren't at this rate. Because there's so much needs doing to the other board, you see, before we can even test it. I mean, a lot more than the first, more than the one you've seen in part 1 and part 2 of this one, more than this board that was in part the 3 or 4 part series of the original batch of 3010s that I looked at. So yeah, I'm going to put this board out of the way, strip down the other one. I'll show you how bad that board is, and we'll get the chips IC off it. So this one's going to be for spares. The keyboard's nice. It's actually better than mine, so you know what, I might end up using that in mine. Yeah, so I mean, hopefully you'll agree with my thought process here. Just look how bad this is here, and it's like, look, that's mangled. Corrosion all up around the RAM. The ROMs are corroded. There is corrosion around here. Corroded all up here, all around there, and the edges of these connectors here. So you know what, it's going to be for spares, this. It's pretty sad, but you know what, you're always going to have to sacrifice one of these at some point to fix another one. And you know what, mine is in so much better condition than this one, and it needs a chips IC. So yeah, anyway, Allen key here to remove those 2 screws, even those are really corroded on this one. I might send this to another channel because I think it could be made to work again if you've got the inclination to want to have a go at it. Let's just pull these out. I'll tell you what, let's just spray some contact cleaner in there. And just see if we can get these out. Are the pins going to survive on those? coming out, I think. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, they're a bit so they're a bit corroded look. Anyway, I'll clean those up later. If I get mine working again, I'll test it. Yeah, so the pins have all survived there, but it's a bit dirty to say the least. I think we'll get the ROMs out as well, actually, because we can just test these things on the other board. Technically speaking, contact cleaner there could actually start the corrosion again, because you're adding some liquid to the stuff that's solidified. Can't even get that under there. Look, there we go. Yeah, so this one I think would need new ROM sockets. Yeah, it's like right up here, look. Anyway, let's get these parts off it. Yeah, so again, the legs need cleaning up on that. I mean, there's not much on here you could use as spares. There's the keyboard MCU, wherever that is down here, I think. And the ARM 250. But, yeah, they're pretty bulletproof. Maybe the hybrid here, but that's pretty corroded as well. Anyway, I now need to rotate this around. Remove all of these things here. Oh, this is so bad, this one. You can see why I don't want to fix this one. Well, it's not that I don't want to fix it. I was going to have a go at it. It was on my list. I thought, well, when I've got this first one out of the way, which we've now done, I will spend, I don't know, a few months fixing this one. But now we're taking the chips IC off it. We've got to hope that chips IC works. There's no point. I mean, maybe there is a point. Someone could remove all this stuff around here, and have got trying to fix this. Of course, I've got the chips IC that works, but the power port's balked on it. So, yeah, I might think about donating it to another channel if someone wants to have a go or something. I mean, Plan C, he's the sort of guy that would be keen to have a go at this. But I know perhaps Barry, Sparks UK might. But then again, when he sees how bad this is, I'm not sure whether he's going to have the... Well, he wants to do it, do you know what I mean? Sparks UK's already got one of the A3010 sent him, and he's had no end of trouble with that. He's a diagnostic hardware and stuff that he borrowed from Plan C connected to it. And unfortunately, he's not been able to fix that. This is so bad. It's horrendous. It's not even got the nut there. Is that gone? Is that dissolved? I don't know. There's usually like a hex nut around the audio connector that's gone. Even the mouse port is green. So yeah, this is a hopeless one. And you know what? Nothing's hopeless. Nothing's unfixable. Well, chips are. If you can't get a spare chip, you're absolutely knackered. I mean, in theory, I was thinking someone could actually recreate the chips IC. I can't imagine that being too difficult, really. It's doing very little. It's doing the serial and power port. Right, let's get that out of the way. And it's doing the floppy drive. I think the floppy drive would be the hardest bit to recreate, but it is not impossible at all. So yeah, I've got stuff all over my hands here, and there's rust everywhere on the table now. Yeah, so I'm going to go straight at this with some vinegar around what I want, which is the chips IC. Yeah, so I'll have a gentle wipe like that, and then I'm going to use the fiberglass pencil here on the top. It's going to make it easier to solder when we come to solder it onto the other board, and it's also going to help passing the heat. If I clean here like this, it's also going to help the heat and the flux as we try and get this off. That is looking a bit cleaner around there. So I'm going to desolder these three caps here, I think. Yeah, so using the fume extractor from ZX Kim 81. He gave it me in 2020, but he died in 2021, unfortunately. Yeah, it was COVID that got him. Yeah, so thank you ever so much, Kim. You are really missed. Anyway, we've got some flux around that, so I don't mean to say anyway as if like it's not important. It is important, but yeah, getting back on with this. You can see I removed the three caps there. they weren't the easiest things to get off, to be honest. So we've got some flux around that. It's interesting, it's a different colour PCB as well, isn't it, compared to the other ones I looked at. It's like it's not dark and glossy like the other ones, it's just like a lighter green. If you want to risk pad damage, the best way to do it is obviously only take it off when every single pin is totally molten. But I tend to do it this way, and you just apply a lot less heat for less time. You know, you focus where it needs to be. Here, look, just on that bit there now, that side not having so much heat, and you'll get away with that 3-4 times on the same pads if you're careful. Anyway, the chip is off, so we're just going to hope that's alright. Obviously I'll clean it up with some vinegar, with some IPA and stuff before we fit that. Just get the wrist strap on before I touch that thing. Just carefully take this off. Incidentally, whoever sent me that Varta badge there, thank you for that. I think that came from a chap in France actually. And that Amiga badge, I think that came from Sweden actually. I think it came with my, you know, the Pi RGB to HDMI thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it came with that. We now need to try and get the other chip on. I've cleaned the other chip up with vinegar and IPA. Right, all cleaned up. Every pad around there is okay. We're missing this pad here. It's one of the few here that are not used. And I think the reason being is I was looking at the pin out for that. It's got 2 serial ports on it, I think. And one of them is not used. I think. I could be wrong. Anyway, so I cleaned the chip up earlier. It's looking pretty clean on the underside. So I just need to, well, try and get it on. The legs do still look pretty grey on the top side there. Yeah, I want to just clean the pins on this somehow, just a bit further, so I'm just going to extend the fiberglass bristles and just go gently across here like this. Yeah, they're all looking really flat. I am going to use some braid on the underside here as well and then just flatten it again. And be careful not to get onto the top of the pin. It's the bottom part, the part that goes outwards, not the, you know, the part up here. It's the bit that comes out the bottom here that you want to flatten. Alright, so the chip is on. I've inspected around it, looks alright. Still needs a bit of a clean around it, so I don't see any bad connections. Fingers and toes crossed here. So I'm trying it without the floppy drive initially. Let's power it on, there's no speaker. So let's just, I'll put the thing on here. Yeah, stone cold, I think. So I've switched it back off, hang on. See what happens here. That's normal. Bearing in mind there's no floppy drive. So I think that's normal actually with no floppy drive. Oh, hang on. That's not normal. How is that affecting the video? Oh, let's connect the floppy drive up anyway. Maybe it's just doing weird things because the driver's not there or something, I don't know. Maybe that chip size is bugged or... This is a very bad day for me. Everything's just going really wrong here. There's nothing for the underneath of this drive to shorten here, by the way, and I'm keeping this away from there, so let's just, hang on, power. Let's just see if we, well, here, if the floppy drive seeks at all. Floppy drive's not acting normally here. Oh, hooray! It is now working. I had one bad connection. Let's reconnect the composer. I had one bad connection on the bottom of the chip. We've now got the floppy drive back. The video, those lines, I thought maybe it needs the non-volatile resettings. I held down delete, and then the video came back normal, but we still didn't have the floppy drive, and that's when I realised we had a bad joint on the floppy drive. So, it's now working again. Oh, thank God for that. What a mare. So, right, the question is, what's going to happen with this now, the parallel port? So I'm going to plug the zip drive in and bring it up to the table. I'm not going to plug it into the Archimedes just yet. You can sort of plug and unplug it while it's on. It's not a good idea in general with things in life. But what the point I'm trying to make is that is how I've tested it numerous times with the other one. So the zip drive is spinning up, as you can hear. And now it says no drive again. Oh, get yourself fed up with us. It says no disc. Oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, it said no disc. I put the disc in, now it says no disc. I don't know, we're a step further, but you did hear I just knocked that blooming thing over. So have I just killed my zip drive? I don't know. Let's just power cycle it. Let's try it with it all connected up. See what happens if it's already connected when it boots. You see, the thing is with those zip drives, they're a bit, from what I understand, I think it's magnetic optical, is it? Like an MO type drive. It might be purely magnetic, in which case it's a bit like a hard disk, like the SideQuest drives. Hang on a minute, just trying to get the video back. And I just knocked it over. The heads could be balked on it. It sounds a bit squealy to start with already. But I've got another one of those coming if I have killed it. Well, it's not freezing like it was. And it says untiled there, look, it's worked. There you go, there's our data. Let's try Pac-Mania. Oh, finally. So we fixed 2 parallel ports in this particular video. And, yeah, well, sent the other one to landfill, more or less, didn't we? Well, no, it's not going to landfill, it's going to be recycled, I think, the other one. I mean, what I could do, if I was really daring, is spend ages cleaning up that other board and put my old chip on there that lacked the parallel port. Yeah, that is working perfectly. Right, I removed the, I think it's a polyester cap from here, and I got the ones from the other board that I removed, so let's just see what this reports here. Should be 4N7. Yeah, there you go, 4.5 nanofarad. So it's, yeah, ballpark correct. It's always worth testing them, because these polyester ones, with a little bit of heat, they get damaged. But, you know, the one that I took off, let me show you. Look how mangled that is. The top's all melted here, and, you know, it's been pretty bashed up. Let's test that. And I had to wrench it off, and sometimes when you heat for a prolonged time and pull the legs to pull it through, which I did with this one but not the white ones, then the legs come out of the package, so they can look longer. When you've pulled it out, you're like, that's strange, one leg's longer than the other. And it's because they're not even connected. But look, 4.6, there's no problems. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, they're pretty resilient. Oh, hang on, the clip's just come off there. They're pretty resilient, and that contradicts what I was just saying, how they're pretty fragile. Well, they are, but nevertheless, it did survive. Anyway, I'm going to get that white one on there, I think. Yeah, and I've got some new ones of these. I could have just fitted a new one, but I thought, well, let's just take the one off the other board. And I removed it from that other board because it just saved me putting captain tape around it. And I knew I had one to replace here anyway, so I just figured, you know, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, really. That's it. And yeah, that looks good. I've cleaned around, yeah, I did clean around that eye seat with toothbrush, so this is the final step here now, really, just to clean this, clean any little marks off on the underside, and get mine back together again. You know what really freaked me out when I got that new chip on here is that black and white lines across the display. I'm like, what on earth? And that was just the non-volatile got messed up. But you see, when you start working on a board that's powered by a battery, that sort of thing can happen, yeah? Because, well, you've got electricity there. That's the thing. So you could argue I really should have removed the battery before I started doing anything there. Yeah, there's some awful shrieks. So mine's all reassembled and it's all working. I'm just copying 1 or 2 games off the hard disk Elite at the moment, maybe a couple of apps and stuff onto the zip drive, and then we can just make sure those work on the other machine. Yeah, so testing the zip drive here on the Archimedes, one thing I will say, it's really slow at transferring lots of files. When you've got, say, one large file, it gets through it pretty darn quick. But when you've got loads of small files, it takes forever. That's a bottleneck you see in other operating systems from time to time as well. Perhaps not in modern ones, but operating systems of the past, when you've got loads of small files, they take blooming ages. I mean, it's the same actually on modern systems now. Think about it, when I do a backup, it's like, well, you've got loads and loads of small files like ROMs and images and stuff, they take forever to archive. Whereas when you've got, you know, a smaller number of large files, they transfer so much quicker. I did a speed test on it before, and it's something like 70k per second, but that's when it's, you know, just copying a file. So if you've got any illusions of doing backups using the zip drive, you might want to put like several hours aside, because you know what, I've copied not very much here, Elite and an apps folder, and I've been at it for about 15-20 minutes already. If I copied everything off this drive, I could imagine it taking, like, I don't know, 3 or 4, 5, 6 hours maybe. It would be quite a while, I would think. So it might come as a surprise that the other one I'm sending away and giving it, donating it. Xavier did say I could do with these as a wish, and I thank him massively from the bottom of my heart. I'm sending the second one to Sparks UK because he's got a lot of love for the Archimedes, and I previously sent him one of the 3010s that was pretty battered up actually, and he's not been able to get that working yet. He's not given up though. He's been having some help from Plan C, but nevertheless I've gathered together these components here. So I've got the original screws, some of the caps were removed when we removed the chips IC. Yeah, and then we've got 3 of the shorter ports. We've got the black screws, the special ones that, you know, replace these hex nuts, so you don't need to worry about the distance to the shield. And then a correct ASMAN parallel port there, female. The 2 chips ICs which I have left. So I've got the one I removed from the one you saw in this video, where I think the power, I've marked it P, where I think the parallel port may have an issue. I don't know, I didn't try and reflowing it, I should have done that, but I just removed it, and then we borrowed the chip from this board, and that worked, didn't it? So that chip with a P should work okay, and they got one with an X, which I think is bad, and that's the one I targeted to start with, which I think was the original chip that was on my machine, and it started playing up where it just wouldn't boot right, so that's why I've marked bad. But yeah, I would go with a P, the one marked P. First of all, got the battery cell here, a 2032, the diode for that, replacement cap because I melted the 4.7 nanofarad, even though the old one is still in there, in, hang on, where's it gone, this bag here with the nuts and things which are a bit rusted. Yeah, so we've got everything there, hopefully to almost get this up and running. So if Sparks, well, when he does get this up and running, I'm sure it will work, I will attach the photos or something, perhaps within this video, because it might be a while before I get a chance to update this, you know, get this up there. And you can see I've marked it Archimedes curry, because that is an old curry container. Yeah, and you can see it down there. I've just found my magnifier, I've been looking ages for that. Yeah, so I'll put the keyboard back in its proper place, put the lid on. There were no screws with this one, but I'll, you know, stick some tape or something just to hold it together. So anyway, you've seen the inside of it. I think this is only marginally worse than the other one. The thing that's a bit worse here is you can just about see down there the mouse port. Yeah, it's going to need taking off and soaking, I think, and the traces and things cleaning up around there. But I would suggest to Sparks do exactly what I did. Remove all of the 7.4 series there and the buffers and stuff, you know, the line driver, line receiver for the serial parallel sort of side of things. And then, you know, clean up the pads, refit everything. And if the parallel port chip, you know, as I suspect, doesn't work, you may as well, you know, just fit the parallel port. Don't worry about the connectivity. No one's going to use it unless you want to use it. And I'm sure he's not going to be selling it. He's probably going to keep it in his collection because the 3010s are really rare. And if he gets that chips IC on there and there's no other faults with this, and I don't think there would be, I can't imagine that. I think once the ports are all replaced and the, you know, the IDC connector, you saw it was mangled. It just needs removing, cleaning up there, new one of those to go on there. I don't have one of those unfortunately to hand, or I would include it, and it should have lived to see another day. Yeah, I'm just cleaning up the ROMs and the RAM for him here. I did briefly test these and there were no issues, and they're not too bad. They're just, you know, a little bit greeny, yeah, a little bit oxidised, the RAM more than the ROMs, but then again you can see this looks a bit dirty here. So yeah, starting with vinegar, like this, all different orientations, so I tend to start in the middle, and then as you tilt it, it kind of leaks out onto the front between the pins anyway, and then go down like that, and then go this way. That is good as new. And if you ever wondered, the part number is D424260V-80, manufactured by NEC in Japan. So I'm going to put these in this separate packaging here, actually. I don't think we're going to be able to fit all of the stuff in here. Actually, let's see how big these are. Yeah, no, they will fit, I think. Might just be able to fit all of these together. Just push that into the foam. Stand that the right way around. I can't remember which way these go around now. At one point I did have a mark on these, but you can see those look brand new. They haven't got any white streaks or anything down them anymore. Pins look good as new. So my advice there is for Sparks to look at some of my 3010 videos to see up close, if you can, how, now this is going to squash right down, isn't it? So I actually think the best way to do this is just to literally put those like that, squeeze that down, yep, and then you can see they're not going to come out here because this is going to go like that. That's it. Yeah, so I didn't need that ESD foam in there anymore. I've also put two of the buttons that Xavier sent me, so he's got a button and a spare for the floppy drive, and obviously we've got the ROMs and RAM and everything there now, so yeah, I'll stick an elastic band around that as well, but there will be some bubble wrap. It's going to go in with the Archimedes and an EMS board, actually, in a few parts that I was going to send to Sparks as well, because like I say, he helps me out with every single project, always sending me parts, always sending me PCBs. I cannot thank him enough. So thank you, Xavier, for allowing me to say a kind of special thank you to Sparks. So again, a massive thanks to Xavier, all back together, and it now works perfectly. So if it wasn't for that second machine that he sent me, this would not have a working parallel port. I feel sorry for Sparks, like I'm sending one with, without a parallel port effectively, and obviously there's a lot of work needs doing to it. I'm sure it could be done. If he hasn't got around to doing it, and he doesn't fancy doing it, if he wants to send it back to me, I'll do it for him. But the bottom line is, it's a lot of work. Just using a composite here, so it's a bit fuzzy. I've got VGA monitors nearby, so I should really connect up VGA. Anyway, I do hope you found that interesting. Please do check out the other Archimedes videos on the channel. We're not all as bitty as this one. All we've done here really is just replace a chip. I'll post some links down below to the Centre for Computing History. There's two amazing videos you should watch if you want to know more about the history of Acorn and the ARM in general. One of them was a recent interview, or presentation really, from Steve Ferber, who was one of the key people at Acorn, and also Sophie Wilson, who was again one of the key people that worked on the ARM chip. So you think about phones, they have ARM devices in, everything these days has ARM devices in. You'd be stupid to not watch those interviews. They're really interesting interviews. It won't be the last Archimedes video. I've got a couple more videos where the Archimedes will be featured coming up. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next video.